right. Well, hey, I appreciate everybody being on. It's really, really good and really exciting to see some new names and some new faces. And it's also great to have the regulars back and some of the individuals that have been participating since the very beginning. So as usual, I'm going to do a little bit of overview and introduction and some disclaimers in order to make sure, that people that are joining for the first time kind of get oriented and understand the objectives. And also just to kind of keep everybody up to date on the improvements and the maturation of the program. Really excited. I know I say it every month, but I'm just really excited with the progress we've made between the January session and the February session. And, coming out of the last year, calendar year 24 into calendar year 25, we were super excited with that. We took a lot of feedback in December from individuals that have been participating for quite some time, and we really appreciated that feedback, and we tried to put some more structure, a long-term plan, update the website, make things more available. So, as always, we're really excited to keep this moving forward. And I say this many times in each session, I'll keep saying it, the best part about this is it's like-minded individuals here helping each other. And in order to get the good word out, we need new participation. We got to keep spreading the word. So hopefully everybody gets something out of it tonight. And hopefully if you know anybody else that's you think could benefit from it, please spread the word. We at IDP believe in it. It's aligned with our vision. It's aligned with our mission and our why. And it's all about, giving back and helping individuals transition. With that, again, I wanted to kind of level set, it's the retirement and separation social hour. So we were calling it last year the virtual happy hour, but we wanted to give the name a little more of a direct kind of reference to retirement and separation, because it's not just for retirees. Like, it's not just for all of us old guys. We'd like to get some young blood in here too. Some of those Marines that are separating after 4 or 5 years. Drew is one that's not a retiree. Sean's one that's not a retiree as well. So, just want to point out that this is an event that we would like to be publicized as being for everyone. It's open to all ranks, all MOSs, all services. We do intend over, in the long run, we do intend to bring in some of the other services. And, as we continue to expand and get more resources, we want to make this available to anybody that could benefit from it. Like we've said before, one of the main objectives is to kind of balance or level set the imbalance between accession and transition. You all have heard the narrative, 13 weeks, 10 weeks, plus MOS school, plus, any other job training to become a Marine. And then for a lot of us, it's 5 days and good luck doing the rest of it on your own. So this is meant to supplement, augment, and enhance, TRS and help provide a community through the transition process. And again, as I always say at the beginning, this is resourced, staffed, and really put on by IDP. I try to do a great job, and I want to make sure up front, I thank Abigail and Drew particularly. They've really taken the helm here and are running away with this. But even though it's, like I said, produced and staffed and resourced by IDP, it's not for our benefit. This is our community engagement platform. This is our way to give back. So it's not about business development. It's not about recruiting. It's about helping individuals get through the process, find good jobs afterwards, and just be happy in their post-Marine Corps life. Also, as a notice, we are recording. We're using Read AI, and Drew's going to talk a little bit in a minute about the use of Read AI and why we record to make it more available for everybody and how that's allowed us to enhance the visibility and distribution of the information. But again, just wanted everybody to understand and know that we are recording. We use Read AI, and it really allows us to do a lot with the information follow on. The last thing before I pass it over to Drew is just to talk about the schedule. Last month in January, we kicked it off with an overall checklist. Lance Johnson spoke. He did a great job of compiling a comprehensive checklist. And then we said, now we're going to deep dive into some of those. So some of the information we're going to talk about tonight for February to maximize your benefits, navigating VA resources for success. We're also going to talk about the VA claim process if you want to. But this is the first deep dive on some of the topics that are separate tabs on that original spreadsheet. If you haven't seen it, the spreadsheet is available on the website. You can go out there. and get the spreadsheet, or if you need to just ask one of us, we'll be happy to send it over to you. And then keep in mind, next month in March is Your Health, Your Benefits, Your Future health insurance for veterans. We've already had several conversations and lots of questions about TRICARE versus VA. What do my dependents get? So we're going to talk about that and share stories on that. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Drew. So you can talk about some of the updates and enhancements with social media and YouTube and stuff, and then we'll kick off the VA discussion. So Drew, thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, I'm going to apologize in advance, everyone. I'm getting over the flu, week 2 of it. So if I have to cut out to cough, just ignore me for a second. But hey, just quick update. Jim mentioned the website. We have some updates out there, still a work in progress, but we're getting links to some of our documents like the checklist, Lance's checklist that we went through. That's available out there. So I'll put the website here in the chat in a second, but keep checking there because we're going to update it as we go. And then the second big thing is the YouTube channel. So we now have an IDP community YouTube channel, and we're using these recordings from these calls and putting them out there in long form. So just because of a timing thing right now, we just have the long forms. It takes some time to cut those out, but we will break it down into digestible shorts. So if you want to catch a specific topic, we'll have that out there for you. We're working backwards, so we have December and January out there right now. We're working on getting some of the previous calls out there because there were some real gems from 2024 we want everyone to have available to them. So here's the link to the YouTube channel. Keep checking out there. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the ding bell. I don't know. We got to get that little thing to automatically run so I don't have to sound like a dingbat. If there's any... Yep, see, there it was. If there's anything that you guys want to see specifically, like from a previous call or something, just let me know, and we'll find it in one of the clips and get it out there in short and publish it out to you. But yeah, just keep watching. We're going to keep updating the website. We have some stuff that we're pretty excited about. Abby's been doing a ton of killer work out there, making our very chicken scratch messaging sound professional and helpful. So thanks, Abby, for keeping us honest and keeping it moving. So that's all I've got on the update side, but just let us know if you guys need resources linked out there or if you're looking for anything specific from a previous call.
All right, cool. Great. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it. And like Drew said, the links are in the chat, so check it out when you have time. Share it with anybody who you think might benefit. Abigail, do you have anything that you wanted to share, any updates for the group?
I wanted to say that the YouTube channel is kicking off. We're starting to get more subscribers in. So everything is starting to expand, and the website is still under development, but we do have a lot of great resources on there. And that's about it for me.
All right, awesome, great. And thanks again to Abby and Drew for the work that you're doing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into the subject matter for the evening, which is VA, the entire process. We could talk about anything from the claims process and submitting your VA claim to once you have your award, once you have your rating, what benefits you may not be entitled to, healthcare, things like that. So before we hop into, and I start driving a little bit here, I wanted to just, because this is a hot topic in a lot of cases, it's very one of the first things that come to mind for individuals that are in the transition pipeline. Does anybody from the group have a particular topic that you want to start with, or a question that's just, you're just dying to ask to the group related to VA, healthcare claims, compensation, education, anything like that? So if anybody wants to kind of throw a topic out there first, and we can start with the discussion part, happy to take it that direction. So open to anybody from the group. Yeah, go ahead, Jake. Thanks.
Hey, I just want to say one thing, something I'm still working on. So I got my rating the day after my EAS, so that was great. But I had somebody help me with it. I didn't put my dependents in, and so my dependents are still not on my rating. And so I'm a single veteran. The VA says they're backed up. I think they're doing August claims now. So mine's a few months behind getting my dependents actually on there for compensation, but if I can tell somebody here and it doesn't happen, because it's a few other buddies are dealing the same thing. So if it helps somebody here, just don't forget that part.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Jake, and that's quite a bit of money on a monthly basis. So I hope you get your back pay and all that. And yeah, I've heard that before and I've seen that before. And to your point too, right now is not the best time to get things resolved in a timely manner. I know Drew's been waiting on some resolution for a problem for a year and a half or more. He'll probably talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, great point. And not everybody understands the benefits and how dependents work into all this too. And one of the things we'll talk about in a little bit too is even after you've got your rating, the benefits that apply to your dependents. So good luck, Jake. I hope you get that straightened out. And, a great note for the rest of us, like you got to look your stuff over before it goes down range. We'll talk about VSOs and Wounded Warrior and the people that can submit on your behalf. You got to remember, these are human beings just like us, as professional as they might be. I know, when I looked over mine, he was originally sending it forward with the wrong box check. He didn't have BDD checked. And I'm like, did you forget to do that? And he was like, oh no, I just missed it. Like I could have gone down range. So good point, Jake. Sometimes these submitters can make mistakes that could cost you dearly. So, Zach, I saw your hand up.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. So I'm just getting started with kind of figuring out as far as like submitting the VA claim. I think like my BDD, when I can submit it, isn't even until April 4th. So the only thing that I've done to kind of get myself started is just like a head to toe like check. But 20 years, a lot of things happened over 20 years. You don't remember everything. I guess my question to the group is like, where's the best place to get started? Like, cause that's where I'm at right now. Like, just kind of trying to get everything noted. So then when I go talk to the VSO or somebody, like I could at least say like, hey, like here are the records I have and here's the list of things that I have. So.
Yeah, it's a great question, Zach. And I'd like to open it up to the group to offer some guidance, right? Because we've got quite a few individuals that have been through it and taken different paths. But I'll take the first shot here. And I know you weren't on last month. And so I feel like you kind of teed this one up for me to go ahead and highlight why our checklist is awesome. So I don't know if you've seen this, but this is what I was referring to. So last month we presented this checklist and we really started with this tab here, the master checklist. And here we've got buckets, things that relate to VA medical, VA education, transition. And then most of the things that are here on the VA medical tab are broken down even further on this VA medical. They say VA medical on the master checklist. Then we've got this VA medical tab. So this has got some really good resources, on educating yourself on where to go for records, go head to toe. Some of it's real simple. Some of it's more useful. But so I want to make sure, one, that we share this with you and we can use this as a reference point kind of through the discussion. But first, I want to open it up to the group, because there's a lot of people that have been where you're at right now. So anybody that's kind of further along in the process, have any answers or guidance? Hey, Abby, I saw your hand up. Go ahead.
So I have experienced that for sure. I think you can go on the Genesis portal and you can actually download your entire medical transcript and you can pull from there, and that'll help you kind of, you'll be able to see everything that you went to medical for, and then that will help you make your claims and decide like what you can claim and what you cannot claim.
Yeah, exactly what she said. And for you older guys, like I know Jeff's got 24 years. At some point in our career, the two systems changed. And some people have issues with their records being pulled into the new system, and I forget the names, but I was fortunate mine were there. So make sure all your stuff's there. Because you rolled an ankle when you were 21 that you forgot about.
Yeah, what you can do, Zach, is you can go. Where are you at? Right? You're at Pendleton, right?
Yeah, I'm at Pendleton.
Yeah,
and I have that on my list to do the Genesis. Thank you for that, Abigail. One of the things, I don't know, maybe you guys know this. Sorry to throw a question while you're answering a question, but like I had my paper records previously too. So I just don't know how much of those are in the Genesis portal. And I have the added benefit of I did 2 tours of recruiting duty. So any of my medical stuff, like a lot of it was outside of network that just got thrown into my paper, like medical record SRB area that like I know I'm going to have to go through and upload. But I'm looking forward to what you got for me, Adam.
Yeah, so I'm in the same boat. I had 2 independent duty stations where I was TRICARE Prime Remote, and my first step was to go to the hospital, and I requested only the electronic copy of my record. And to Jake's point, when that electronic copy showed up in my inbox, it was a DoD safe, and there was the old Alta notes in there. There was my surgery from Tripler back in 2008. There was the all the stuff that's on TRICARE Online, then all the stuff that's on Genesis, and some old hard copy things that were, I thought, only in my medical record. What was missing was everything at the primary care facilities when I was on those independent duty stations. So I've been just going down the list and reaching out to folks. And as soon as I find someone who's got my records, I'll do the medical release form. And 3 times now, I've been able to get them faxed over to the Lejeune Naval Hospital and got them added to my record. So yeah, I would say go get your electronic copy. It's like a 24-hour turnaround. They'll send it to you, and you can look for those big blue arrows of things that could potentially be missing. And if they are missing, then that's the hard part. I'm told there is a way to get something from TRICARE on the insurance billing side, right? So if you were Prime Remote, you went to urgent care or you went wherever, and you didn't have any of those records from a visit put into your hard copy record, they would have had to have billed TRICARE. And in many cases, they would have had to have sent paperwork. So somewhere TRICARE supposedly has copies of some of these encounters, if you will. And I have not been able to determine if that's true or if it's false. But I don't know if anyone here on the group can add to that. Over.
No, awesome information, Adam. Thanks. And I see a lot of hands up. So excited to hear from everybody. Roy, I think your hand was up next. You got any clarification to Adam's points or stuff to add?
Yeah, sure do. When I was going through my the medical record, I had some issues. Like I said, out in town was one of the problems that I had, especially when I got diagnosed with sleep apnea. That I was fortunate enough during my CMP exam that the doctor noticed, like, hey, this is not in your medical record. I'll annotate this, but it has to be in your medical record when they go to review, and it has to be sent to the VA so you can claim it for in-service thing. And that was a really big thing for the sleep apnea portion that I had to fight the doctor here locally in Fredericksburg, because it's a pay to get record state, but their records are located out of state. So I was able to get in a fight with them to get that done. And Zach, if you need to, I got a head to toe listing. I can send you basically what I filled out to send up. It kind of gets you started on like how I did the head to toe. Basically what it is, it's like, hey, what's external, what's internal, what's mental, and then what happened. Let's say, and primary example is they use the thing like, hey, if you had something like cancer, you had something that was in the service and that was fixed, maybe you had permanent hair loss, maybe you had something else that's on the second, third, fourth order effects. Make sure you list anything and everything on there. You may get to a point where you get the rating, it'll go down, they'll say 0, 0, 0, but there's some things out there. If you list like your scars, if you list issues with like let's say like right elbow, have like tendonitis, and then you have grip issues. That's two different issues. One might get something, one might not. But if you don't list it, it doesn't get looked at. It doesn't have the potential to get graded. I mean, at certain points, a 0% grading is better than nothing, because you can get care for that potential issue, especially if it gets worse on down the line.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in that list, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. If you guys want to throw your email out there, I'll dig mine up and I'll send it to you. I don't care. I don't have anything to hide. I'll show you what I did, and it is what it is. Take what you can from it, but it'll at least show you guys what the list looks like or how I build it in order to submit for my CMP exams.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Roy. Appreciate that, and appreciate you sharing and offering to share. And if you got stuff that you think is beneficial to more than just Zach, send it over to Drew and Abby as well, so we can get it in our repository. Kevin, saw you next.
Yeah, just a couple things to hit on it. Roy just crushed it, but a few more things to add to that. One, if you're anything like me and you kind of grew up in with the older generation, you were told not to go to medical if you had issues or whatever it might be. One thing that I did to combat that, I guess, was do some buddy letters, some Nexus letters. I had, friends or corpsmen from the past. I had issues, concussions and things that happened I never went to medical for. Just got a copy, a letter written from them, signed and dated or whatever, saying that they had seen or was there during that period. So they signed off on that, submitted it with it. Ended up hooking me up. I ended up, because of those letters, I got rated for those things and worked out great. Other than that, I spent most of my career on I&I duties. So going back and getting those medical records are tough. But again, those Nexus letters, the buddy letters, they really help out.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kevin. I appreciate you bringing that up, right? Because, there's a common narrative that if it's not in your record, you're not going to get compensated for it. And, there are ways, like you just pointed out, the Nexus letter. And there's also kind of a sense of the burden of proof is on the government, right? So, if you've got an injury, you've got something and you can't find your medical record, right? There are ways to find and to get it documented and get it into your case, into your claim, and you can still get it. So, we're addressing multiple challenges here. I'm glad that so many of us have that independent duty assignment experience where we understand the challenges of, tracking down your medical records from a private treatment facility and then combining that and good information. And Adam, I saw Brandon threw some links in the chat, so I'm going to check those out. But Brandon, did you have more to add on the TRICARE stuff?
Yeah, those are specifically to answer Zach and Adam's independent duty questions. As you guys know, TRICARE West recently changed over to Humana Military or something like that. But if you go to TRICAREWest.com and you're in obviously the Western region, I think is Mississippi, you can actually check all of the statuses of any TRICARE billing that you've had over the course of, I think I went back as far as 18 months. Adam, the Humana Military one is what I found just real quick on Google that might apply to your situation, being as that you've been on the East Coast most of the time. But Zach, if you're in Pendleton and you were, in recruiting duty out there, you're going to want to do the first link at TRICARE-West.com. DS logon for both of them. So if you don't have that, you're going to need to create one that's not CAT capable. And that's what I used to do mine. I didn't do the BDD route, but I was able to get all of my medical records from both Cleveland and here to include any ER visits or surgeries, like Adam mentioned, that was directly billed through TRICARE Prime Remote. So hopefully those will help you guys out to get what you need.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome information, Brandon. Thanks for sharing that. And again, great assembly of individual experiences here. And Zach, great question to get started. I appreciate it. So, did you have any additional questions, Zach, or did anybody shared with you kind of spark a second or third question? And anything that you want to ask back to anybody that you might have missed?
I don't know if it's obviously it sparked a million more questions, but really what it did is it sparked me to write down just copious amounts of notes. So I think I haven't seen this checklist because this is my first time being in this group. So I'm going to go back and look at the previous last month's meeting and kind of start there. But I mean, everybody's being very helpful and just providing. And I guess that's the one thing that's great about this is, it's still it's a brotherhood. It's a sisterhood. We all take care of one another. Just being able to come into a forum like this, where some of you guys are a couple miles ahead of me on the run and you kind of know what the dangers are ahead, that I get the radio back. So I know where to make my moves if I need to. So just in general, I just appreciate everybody jumping right in and saying hey, like this worked for me, or, these are some great websites, like all the tools and the things at your disposal. I think it's especially for some that have been here too, it is just like system overload trying to go through all the different websites and all that kind of stuff. So for me, I'm just kind of gripping as hard as I can to hang on and try to hit up as many of these things as I can with the time that I have left. So I just appreciate all the different things that I could use that'll help me make the process a little bit easier. I mean, if it makes it 1% easier going to a website to find a TRICARE billing than having to track down a doctor who's not even practicing anymore, that would just help me out tremendously. So.
All right. Well, good, man. I'm glad you got some help, and I'm glad you asked that question. Drew, I saw your hand up next.
Yeah. Hey, Zach, to your point, this is not a once a month thing. We have the call once a month, but as you're going through your checklist, as you're going through stuff and getting results, write down who's talked about it, reach out to them. If you don't have their email address, hit up one of us at IDP. We'll get you in touch. This is an ongoing open conversation. It's not just, hey, we'll see you, in March. No, man, as you're going through it, just reach out, ping people. We've all, a lot of us have been through it before, and everyone's willing to help.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, great point, Drew. And if you can't write fast enough because you got your little one on your lap, don't worry. We're going to post a video. We're going to send the highlights from Read AI. We do a great job of getting the information back out. So you'll have, like Drew said, you'll have access to the entire network throughout, and you'll have an opportunity to go back and check out the information again. All right, I see lots of hands up. Let me go. Kevin, I saw yours next.
Yeah, just one thing I forgot to mention before. Something that I used a lot to my advantage and it really helped out was AI ChatGPT.
Okay.
So putting in a major injury I had, back issues, whatever it might be. And then it's just basically putting in there, hey, what are some follow-on issues that generally happen because of that? Does your hip start hurting? Does your, knee start hurting? And then just feeling myself out and being like, oh, maybe that does hurt. Maybe that is an issue or whatever. And just see if there's anything else that might add up, because those claims that you do for something major, it's a good percentage. But if you have things that follow on with that, that'll add up even more.
No, that's a good point, Kevin. You're kind of doing your own research before you submit the claim to make sure you understand why you've got these additional peripheral pains and aches and things like that, and what of your major issues it's tied to. So that's actually something I haven't heard or thought about before, about using ChatGPT and kind of the research process before you submit your claim, right? That's what you're saying? Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good. Brandon.
I just wanted to caution Zach, even though you get the billing statement, and maybe caution Adam as well, you're still going to have to reach out to the individual treating facility to get that hard copy record. That bill is going to point you in the direction of who sent the request to TRICARE. Usually they don't have a name, but they will have a number. And even if the doctor's moved on or something like that, the facility should, in theory, still have your medical records in essentially perpetuity.
Thank you for that.
Good point. Good point, Brandon. Yeah, they're still, as we'll all learn. I was actually just talking to Roxanne yesterday. She's bouncing from place to place, and it's like, who knew that retiring was a second full-time job, right? I know a lot of us have felt that pain and been through that, but yeah, no shortage of legwork and research to do on your own, that's for sure. Roy, you got something else?
Yeah, sorry, I had a moment of forgetfulness. Yeah, sorry, I was just wanting to echo back to Zach and everybody. Hey, don't think the thing is once a month. Definitely reach out. I'll help you guys as far as I can and give you as much advice on the experiences that I had. Don't think that we just come together once a month. Email me, give me a call. That's not a problem. We'll help you until you guys get the results or get to the finish line on either the transition, the resume writing, the DD-214 reviews, and the medical journey on blocks. I mean, I've helped quite a few personnel look over some forms just to make sure we're tracking, and just to make sure you guys are get the third party outside view looking in and saying, hey, what about this second or third order effect? Your DD-214, your social security number, things like that. So just keep that in mind. That's one of my passions, to make sure you guys get out as smooth as possible. So yeah, just reach out. No concerns there to help out.
All right. Awesome initial discussion. Appreciate everybody chiming in and answering the questions and offering to help. And great question to get us started, Zach. Appreciate it. So since we're on the claims process, is just real quick, who else has not submitted a claim, right? So Jeff, have you already submitted your claim? Or are you still left of that?
No, I'm eligible to submit it on the 1st. That'll put
That's
me 6 months out. And similar to Jake, I am having someone help me with it. But some of the things brought up today have me asking some questions as well. Maybe pump the brakes a little bit to verify of like, oh crap, is that, one surgery I had while on like MOI duty at a civilian provider, is that in there?
Yeah.
Just to get it across the line in one shot. So yeah, March 1st is when I can do it. And I think it'll be prepared by then, but I'm going to take my time to review it, make sure it's ready.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. Yeah. And again, just like we said to Zach and anybody else that's left of submission, reach out to the group and ask for help. So one point that I wanted to bring up, and Jeff, kind of good segue because you said you're having someone help you. There's a lot of different, when you talk about getting assistance in submitting your claim and who can submit on your behalf, there's a lot of different routes that individuals take. There's paid services, there's free services, and what I wanted to point out about the free services is you have to evaluate them and interview multiple, depending on where you live, interview multiple resources. Wounded Warrior can submit, VSOs in the counties can submit. What are some of the other ones? VFW can submit on your behalf. So all these organizations will have representatives that are authorized submitters that can submit your claim to the VA. But all I'll say is just get to know the individual before you trust them to submit your claim. Like Jake said, I don't know who helped him and what route he went, but his dependents got left off the claim. For me, there was a box checked improperly. Now, I was actually I went to the Lorain County VSO, the Veteran Service Office. It's a government funded employee that's there to help do claims. So I was happy with mine, but I've heard other individuals, go to the VFW, then say, let me try the VSO. So the point I'm trying to make is just get comfortable and get to know the individual that's going to be advocating you and submitting your claim, because they're not all created equal. If they're working for the VFW or the Wounded Warrior, they're working for a nonprofit. If they're working for the VSO, they're a county employee. So you don't know what quality of individual they are. A litmus test for me is like, if you ask them a question and they respond with a link, right, it may not be the best person, right? If they respond with a, hey, check this link out, and if you've got any questions, pay particular attention to this part. If you got questions, come back to me. Also, in addition to that link, here's this, and that, right? They seem eager to help. They're probably, it might be a good starting point. But just going around, the idea that there are multiple ways to submit the claim. So Jeff, you said you're getting help. I mean, I appreciate that, and I'm glad to hear that. And Zach, for you too, I don't know what resources you've looked into yet, but anybody that's hasn't submitted, just be aware of all the resources for submitting that are out there. So I used a VSO. I don't know if anybody else had experience with VFW or Wounded Warrior or a different organization, but again, I was happy with my county VSO, but I've heard stories of individuals that didn't get the best support. So anybody got any other experiences with the submission process?
Yeah, if anybody's going on a med board, hit me up. I got plenty of experience with that.
Jim, I'd like to say one thing. So, everybody's going through this. You know how stressful it is getting out. And so you've only got so much time. And so maybe you're putting that time towards your resume, you're putting it towards interview prep, maybe you're putting it towards your VA claim, whatever's the most important to you. And so my approach was that I wanted help with my VA claim and I wanted help with the resume so I could focus on the things that I felt like I could control more. And so there's tons of resources out there, but you've only got a little bit of time, and just, one guy might get help with Wounded Warrior and one guy might get help from base, and then another guy wants to pay somebody. But think about it like that too. You only have so much time in the day, and what do you feel like you need help with and what do you feel like you don't need help with?
Yeah, exactly. Great point, Jake. And by all means, like I was happy with the free resource, the VSO, but I totally, going back to the compensation side of this to me is one of the most important things in the process to get right, because it's, from my experience, it's life changing. Getting to 100%. It was with 3 dependents. It's life changing. So it's definitely something to consider getting it right. And if you got to invest some money or some time into it, make sure you get it right. Anybody else got any thoughts on using what the resources you used for your submission? Go ahead, Paul. Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, sorry, I almost missed it today. Still feeling pretty down. Roy can tell you I've been sick for like the past week. It's been destroying me. But no, I got to tell everybody, like, look, make sure you do it right the first time. I am still in the fight with the VA. I got out in 2012, and I'm still fighting them to get some stuff done correct. Especially like if you have a back injury, really, really fight for that, because I'm still fighting for it, even though the VA took MRIs, took x-rays after I got out and started getting stuff done. They're still saying, oh, it's sciatic nerve, yet I have degenerating discs, I have bulging discs, and then they finally figured out that the actual injury that happened to my back originally was actually 2 fractured vertebrae. But they're still fighting to say, oh, well, that could have happened afterwards, even though it's clearly marked in the x-ray that it's an old fracture that was never healed right in the exact same spot where the pain is at. I tell you, the VA will fight you tooth and nail. So get it done right now. And Jake, if I remember correctly, you said that you, I think you paid to have yours done, and it was done correctly. I mean, and same thing with you, Jim. You got real lucky with a good VSO. Make sure y'all get what y'all deserve.
Well, I've had buddies submit their own to get 100%. I've had buddies use all the base services to get 100%. I'm not going to sit here and say my way was the right way. I think it worked for me personally. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I got a friend that did, some guys are just really smart at all that stuff. I didn't feel like I had the time for it.
Totally get it. But that's all I had, Jim.
No, and thanks, Paul, for sharing that example, because, you're highlighting why a network like this is valuable, and hearing these stories are valuable. And Drew, I don't know, Drew, if you feel like sharing, but I know Drew's got a similar story trying to get records modified, right? So doing it right on the front end, like most of us have learned that through our Marine Corps career, doing it right the first time is the easiest way to get it done, right? Because corrections in the government and in this space take a long time.
Yeah, I'll speak for just a second. Sorry, Roy, I'm cutting in front of you for a second. But as you guys are going through this, just know that there is a very small chance that the VA could make a mistake. Could happen. And when it does, it will take them a long time to fix it. And they may not ever tell you what they messed up. So that comes with working. If you're working with somebody, make sure that they're reviewing not only what you're putting out, but what the VA is responding with. If you're paying an organization, they should know it. If you don't feel like they do, you need to find somebody else. If you're working with Wounded Warrior and they don't seem to care, they don't seem to have the time because they're understaffed and overstressed, find somebody else. So just make sure that that person is dedicated to doing what you need them to do, to make sure you get it right on your side, and double check the VA too.
Yeah, great points. Thanks, Drew. Roy, you got something else?
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless of what path you guys go to choose, you will get what you put into it. Don't settle for minimum efforts. Sometimes overkill on the record submission, especially on the medical side of the house, for finding documents that are outside of your medical record. Get those submitted to your VSO or to your representative so it can get uploaded to your VA file, and then also at the same time get it uploaded to your military file. Don't regardless of where your VA or BDD package is, you can still submit documents on top of your package as it's going through the pipeline. So like I said, I had my claims put in for my sleep apnea. I had my CMP exam for my sleep apnea. It was after the CMP exam that the doctor said there is going to be a potential issue. If they listed that it's not in your record, you may not get rated for it. And they instructed me on how to do that. And that's what caused me to aggressively get that from the local facility here to get submitted to the VA, or to get submitted to the VA's claims side of the house and to my medical records. Because remember, the two systems don't talk yet. Long range opportunity down the road, they may get the ability to have MH Genesis cross over to the VA, so it's a seamless care. But that's extremely far out for right now. So those systems do not talk to each other. It's you are the liaison between current medical facility or MTF and VA. That's what I have.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Roy, for adding that on. Great discussion so far on the claims process. Really appreciate everybody sharing their personal stories and getting a lot out of the discussion. Happy to continue to talk about the claims process. Are there any other questions that maybe were generated by some of the further discussion, or any other questions on the claims process itself, or resources for submitting your claim? All right, so we really got a lot of good information on the claims process there, a lot of great stories. Say it one more time. If you missed any of it, the video will be posted, the information will be available. The network is always available. Email anybody on this call at any time to follow up. And those of us at IDP will have points of contact for somebody. I can't remember who said what. So yeah, there was a lot of information. It might have been hard to get it all down. So go back and watch the video or hit us up for more information. In addition to the claim, so let's go through this sequentially, right? You find out, you decide you're transitioning, you're separating, you're retiring, and you do all the great work. You use all the tools and resources. You go to the TRICARE website. You get your records from multiple private, or from military treatment facilities, from out in town treatments, and you got it all together. You get it in time. You send it up. Everything's done right. You get your rating. What does that look like on the back end? What are some of the other benefits? We talked a little bit on this call about the compensation. Happy to discuss what that looks like. There's tables out there that tell you, but I can tell you, at 100%, it's a life-changing for the compensation. There's other things that go hand in hand with that. One example today, in Ohio, I went to, renew the registration on my vehicle that I registered before I got my rating. And I just renewed it for 5 more years, and it cost me nothing because of the 100% service disabled veteran in Ohio. Don't pay vehicle registration fees, right? So got a 5-year registration, saved myself a couple $100. One of the other things that we wanted to talk about. So, state to state, there's different things. In Ohio, 50% of my property value isn't taxed, and my property taxes, there's some states you pay no property taxes. So there's a lot of other additional benefits, right, that come with the rating. Remember, as far as ratings go, 50%, we can dive into that a little bit if anybody doesn't understand the threshold, why 50% is important. But basically below 50%, your compensation, you don't really get any compensation. It's a tax write-off, like a certain percentage of your retirement pay won't be taxed. And then 50% and above, now you get an additional check in the mail. Anybody sanity check me if I explained that wrong, but I think I got it right. And if that generates any questions, I'll pause there for a minute. All right. So along with the monetary compensation, a ton of other benefits. One of the big ones that we wanted to talk about a little bit, at least take a little bit of time, is the education benefits, because we had a good example. I'm going to put an IDP employee on the spot, but we had a good example today. One of our employees kind of found out they've got some additional benefits that's not just for them. So Abigail, do you want to share what you learned today or yesterday?
Absolutely. So I learned that if you're 100% permanent and totally disabled, that your children and your spouse will get free college. And that comes from the Chapter 35 benefits. So, and that's not just for 100% TP. It's also for children or spouses of veterans who are deceased, captured or missing or permanently, and like I just said, the PT. And it even, there's an article on the VA website that it'll tell you your rates, what you qualify for, if you go part-time, if you go full-time. And it just gives you a lot of good information on that website. I can actually put the link in the chat so everybody can see it as well.
Yeah, please throw it in there. And thanks for sharing. You know, that's an incredible benefit, right? Is you know, for me having 3 teenagers in the house, JP, everybody knows, is graduating this year, and he's headed off the University of Northwestern Ohio, and the Dependents Educational Assistance Program is going to help us out a lot. So yeah, tuition paid, Chapter 35 Dependents Educational Assistance Program. And what I found out recently, in addition to like Abigail finding that out, I knew that they were that their education was going to be covered, but I actually got a letter in the mail. So VA was tracking, because another thing to keep in mind is that compensation. You know, your compensation gets rated by the number of dependents you have. So it's right now, for my personal example, it's me plus 3 dependents. So I got a letter in the mail that said, hey, JP's approaching 18 years old. If you want to keep receiving compensation for him, you need to fill out this form. And so it's a continuing education form. So not only does he get his education paid for, but I continue to receive compensation for him while he's in school. So as long as he's a full-time student, he's still considered a dependent. So my compensation will still stay at that same amount. After he graduates and kids become older than 18, your compensation will decline over time. So for anybody, you know, that's got kids, keep that in mind. You get that compensation until they're 18 or until they go to school. So we got a whole package in the mail. It had the pamphlet, had all the paperwork, told us how to work with the school to get, you know, the letter of enrollment, and then also to initiate his Chapter 35 benefits. So far, I have found the process to be pretty helpful, right? That they're preemptively sending that stuff out and tracking. But again, it's kind of an immeasurable and valuable asset or benefit to think that, you know, your dependents can get their education. And there's lots of other things added in there too, you know, some allowances for Drew, what did you call it? Like for the equipping, and but yeah, some of the consumables and your school equipment and stuff like that. So that could be books, that could be supplies, that could be tools if you're doing a tech program. Jake hit the big one on the head there: lifetime hunting licenses and national park access. Nope. Yeah, so in addition to education, well, first, any questions from anybody in the group about the education benefits and where to get information and better understand the education benefits? Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, does education benefits for the children, is that like a nationwide thing, or is that state by state? Because I know like Texas has a program, but I wasn't aware that it was nationwide, if that's the case. No, yeah, it's Chapter 35 U.S. code. It's anywhere you go, right? So there are some things state to state, but Chapter 35 is for everybody that qualifies. Great, thanks.
And it's basically like $1,500 a month for 48 months, if I'm right. It's in that ballpark.
Yeah.
It can be more than that. So it's like the in-state tuition rate for a long time. But Kevin, there are some programs state by state. The ones that have some bigger veteran populations also have programs. Think like Yellow Ribbon on top of the title or the Chapter 33 benefits that are in addition to that Chapter 35. So check out some of those state things too, because they can be a real big kicker.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Roy.
Also, the VA is actually pretty decent about communicating. My oldest just hit 16 years old, and when they did that, the VA actually sent a letter to me with my son's name attention on it, basically stating, here is your Title 35 benefits. Here is your Title 35 application. Like, the VA sent that in a package for my 16-year-old to start reviewing and looking at. And to Jim's note as well, if you have dependents, you know, like 7+, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just making a joke on that one. But if you have dependents, the VA will actually send you a letter too saying, hey, you rate, and I'm going to throw a number out there. You rate 4,000 because you have you plus 3. It's you, your wife, and 2 kids. When kid 1 hits this date in the future, you now have 3,700. When kid 2 hits the 18, you age out and now have 3,500. Things like that. So the VA actually does have a good communication, so long as your address, caveat, so long as your address, mailing address is correct, or someone else is going to get great communication. But yes, they do communicate very, very well. Sometimes they over communicate to you to where you're not alone in the mailbox with the bills anymore. The VA kind of fills that gap too. But that's what I had.
Yeah, no, great point, Roy. And yeah, they do. They lay it all out for you in your compensation letter. Like, here's what it looks like now. Here's what it looks like minus 1 dependent. So all that is spelled out. And yeah, same experience here. As soon as JP was approaching 18, we got that letter. So again, the reach out, ask questions. If you need resources, you need to know more. There's lots of links and stuff for understanding the Chapter 35. A lot of education benefits. Any other questions, around the educational benefits, applying for things, or any other comments on, getting the most out of those benefits? Yeah, Drew.
Yeah, I'll just say, if you're using it for yourself, if you're doing the Chapter 33 stuff and you're trying to enhance your career, this is one of the most unfair advantages that veterans get. If you didn't go through and get like your master's degree or a degree in a field that you want to enter, this is the ticket. A lot of top tier schools will skip you right to the front of the line in a lot of cases. I mean, we're talking like top 10 MBAs. They'll give veterans a slot. Now, you still have to be competitive. It's not a walk-on. It's not easy. You still have to put in the work, but this thing can be huge for you. So if you aren't doing something that you want to do, you don't have the experience or the credentials, you got to take advantage of this. But don't just limit yourself to the Chapter 33. Jim, could you jump to the Education and Certifications tab while we're talking through it? So there's another program. If you're working in a field professionally that you don't want to continue working in post-military, or even just after the military, if you get somewhere and you're like, nah, I'm not digging it, I want to do something else. But it takes education to be able to switch that. One of these lines we have in here, look into the Veteran Readiness and Employment VRE. So this is basically like vocational retooling. And it says, hey, and you have to go talk to a person, a career counselor or an education counselor. It's typically at a school. They interview and you say, hey, I want to do underwater welding, but I have the skill set of a communications specialist. Can I do that? The VRE is additional time, additional credit towards your Chapter 33 benefits. So this can be huge. And if you've used your Chapter 33 already, it can even retroactively reapply some time to your Chapter 33. So this can be huge for you. Mike, go ahead and jump in.
Mike, checking there, will hear me? I did have something that happened when I was the AMOI at Auburn. I just left last year. I was there from 2021 to 2024. They have what's called the VRC, which is the Veteran Resource Center, and it's full of veterans and family members of veterans, and they support veterans that are that are at Auburn University. They help you with the onboarding process, just like you would have a sponsor at your new unit. They help support your family. They help support you in your education, your degree, and also it gives you a sense of community that you have when you get to the university. Again, another resource to help you adapt to that lifestyle, transition into the civilian world, even whether you retired and you're going to school or you're a corporal that got out after 4 years. And a lot of universities in the country have those veteran resource centers to help facilitate with that transition. Over.
Yeah, at Clemson, we've got the military and veteran engagement. Go ahead, Grant.
Sorry, Drew. Nobody cares about Clemson. I wanted to ask you a question, Michael, real quick. When I've looked around before for graduate degrees and things, it looked like Auburn had a program for a master's in finance or something like that, or financial management. Do you think that it's unique, or a good program for a lot of members of this audience, or is it just a generic program like everybody else's?
So they absolutely have a finance program, and I was interested, and I went to apply to Auburn. However, when I did that, they told me I would have to start over as a freshman, and that my 83 out of 120 credits that I had didn't count, and they would only accept 12 of them. And I told them thanks, but no thanks. I refused to start over just because of Auburn. But they, like I said, Auburn is a D1 school with an A1 curriculum and education, but not only that, but the prestige as well. From the people I've talked to, what I know, where you go to school, it may not matter on the promotion board as much, but in the civilian sector, your alma mater definitely does hold some weight and some credibility for certain employers. But the program at Auburn was very extensive. We had students that were in finance, that were in the NRTC program, that were in finance in Auburn, taking classes with those professors. So I would definitely recommend it.
All right, Drew, go ahead and give us your sales pitch on Clemson.
Hey, real quick. I want to acknowledge that it is 9 o'clock. So if anybody has to drop, no hard feelings. We have reached the full hour, but as usual, we're going to keep going because great discussion is happening. But just wanted to chop in there. So Drew, go ahead, bud. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I mean, Clemson, if they weren't here, I wouldn't, like locally, I wouldn't be going there. But what Micah said is 100% spot on. Different schools matter to different employers and industries. So if you're doing something, hey, thanks, Jake. If you're doing something specifically for a specific industry or a specific company, do your research and figure out what schools feed that. So like if you're trying to do IT consulting, you got to go to Georgetown. That's how it goes. Georgetown feeds into Gartner. That's one of their big hiring places. So just do your research. Not all programs are created the same. Second thing, what I mentioned about being local. So I'm not saying anything bad about Syracuse, especially since Lou's on the line, but you got to consider the difference in these programs. So academically cool. If it's in your target employment market, that's another thing. But the third thing is there are different amounts of compensation based on where you're going to school. So for me, going locally to Clemson, their graduate program is downtown. It's 12 minutes from my house. And I go to a corporate program. So, excuse me. One weekend every other month, I go in for 30 hours of torture. But because of that, I get paid BAH every month that we have classes in person. If you do an all online program, you're not going to get that BAH payment. It all depends on what you want to do. So if you're Jake and you want to be out there in Iowa killing deer and that's more important to you, that might be worth more than $1,000, $1,500, $1,800 a month on the months that you meet for class. But if where you're living, has a good program that you want to be partaking in, like that's another financial consideration because, I mean, I don't know everyone's financial situation here, but I don't think most of us are independently wealthy. That $1,000 to $2,000 a month, that can make a big difference on top of your school being paid for. So that's something to consider. And also, the VA covers your tuition at the in-state rate. What that could mean, depending on the school, and the school offices are super helpful with this. So if you have questions, just reach out to the school veterans financing office, and they'll help you out with this stuff. But you could live out of state, travel to school if you're doing something like a corporate or a part-time when you have classes, get paid at that in-state rate and your BAH rate, and still have all your schooling covered. So don't think super black and white. This is not just undergrad. I go to school for 4 years to get a degree. You can be super creative, stretch a program out for 2 years, do it part-time, learn, network really well, and get paid for it.
Yeah, that's all super useful information, Drew and Micah and everybody that's contributed. A lot of things to consider, right? The alumni network, the industries that the particular university might feed. So Micah, great points on choosing the right university. also choosing the right university that accepts the credits you've already accumulated, right? Like the different factors that are important to you are all things that you guys have brought up and that we're discussing right now, right? So is being in state versus out of state, having an in-person versus fully remote, you know, like Drew said, that's a trade-off that each of us have to make individually. But there's enough people on this call that if you're thinking about that, right, and you're in the process, you're like, I want to hear from somebody that did fully remote onward opportunity at Syracuse. I want to hear somebody that's taking advantage of, you know, being in state and doing it at Clemson. We've got those individuals in the network. So for those of you that are in the process and thinking about it, you know, what you could take away from this conversation, that there's people that have the experience that can help you make the decision and weigh some of the factors. Drew, I wanted to clear one thing up about the compensation, right? That additional $1,500, that's chapter 33, not chapter 35, right?
Correct. That's chapter 33.
Yeah. So that's for you, for yourself. But I also want to point out that, like, for me, I have chapter 33 like GI benefits left. I have several months of that left. So JP is going to college next year. He's going to use the remaining months of my GI, right? Because my chapter 33, why? Because it's monetarily beneficial. Like Drew said, if I were to just go, hey, just use chapter 35, he wouldn't get the housing allowance. But him being his age, he's going to go to UNOH. He's going to use, and I have enough months left that he's going to finish. And then Anderson and whoever else will get, there's nobody else. I shouldn't say whoever else. I'm not Lou. I'm not starting over again. But Anderson will use a chapter 35. But for now, you know, to Drew's point, like I could decide to keep that and I might get an MBA. I don't really need to because Drew and Lou are both getting theirs. But, you know, for me, it's like, hey, I'm going to let my son go and he can have an apartment instead of living in a dorm. So he's going to get a housing allowance. But so there's a lot to consider, you know, you don't have to take all of it, all the notes tonight and walk away with a complete understanding, but just know that the network is here and we've all got different experiences. But what I wanted to take away from what Drew said is the housing allowance and some of the extra book stipends, those come with chapter 33, right? The original benefits. The chapter 35 stuff that comes with disability, that's a separate compensation. That's really just tuition and a few other small stipends and benefits. So, all right, Lou, what's up, man? All right.
Scott.
Huh?
I said just got out of class. So
all right. Yeah, see, perfect. Rolling right in. Getting that MBA and sharing the knowledge with us on the team. So to the rest of the group, who else has any questions or any other topics? So we kind of got through the claims process and the resources and, you know, how to get your records in order. We talked about now that you've got your claim in place and you were successful, what are some of the education and career benefits, VR&E? All right, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm in TRS right now, and the three big things that everybody's discussing that everyone has a different opinion on is the SPP, TRICARE, and the life insurance. So the VGLI now. Just want to get everybody's opinion that's gone through that and why they picked what they picked, or any good ideas.
All right, who wants to go first? We talked a little bit about this on the last call, and this is a great subject, Kevin. So thanks for asking the question. But go ahead, Roy, dive in.
Yeah, so for that choice there, I sat down and did the math on it. I went with the survivor benefits plan, but I did not go with the life insurance. Life insurance was astronomically high. And I didn't touch that. One, I'm not in like a dire need of health. Now, this is going to be a caveat. And if you have members that are in extremely bad health, you have members that potentially are terminal, you know, God forbid, I hope none of that ever happens, then the VGLI might be in their best interest, especially if they have a terminal illness. So never discount it. But me right now, I made a logical choice not to touch the life insurance, but I did do the SVP plan for the simple fact that I think it's about like $200 and something a month. It's not much at all. And it's a guaranteed when I decide to trip and fall down the stairs or whatever happens, that the wife gets breathing money, basically just to breathe to get money. So, and it's half my paycheck. So it may not be the the most amount of money in the world, but it is something in case I do go. You know, that's on top of the investments, that's on top of outside life insurance policies. It's a small portion that I just give back in. And besides, it only costs me $200 a month, and I croak and I'm not going to get the benefit, so I'll pass it on to them. So I did do that choice. And be honest with you, you never see it anyway. It comes out of your paycheck. A few years from now, COLA will catch back up to that, and it'll kind of even itself out later on, and you don't even see it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, good points, Roy. Does anybody else want to weigh in? Because I've got a lot of thoughts on this, and I've shared my personal experience a couple of times, so I'm gonna share it again. But go ahead, Brandon. I'll let you go first.
My last intervention before I depart for the night. So on the life insurance piece, for those of you guys that have like 18 to 24 months out, I would recommend, if you're interested in the life insurance policies, like the whole term or whatever the case may be, you do that now. Because if you get to the point where you're in my shoes and you're like 4 months out, well, 2.5 now, I don't qualify for any of that crap unless I'm paying like $500 a month, because they have access to MH Genesis, which now has my entire medical record, to include the civilian medical institutions. And therefore my premiums are just absolutely sky high through USAA, Navy Fed. I've gone through Select Quote. I've gone through it all. And so I'm hopefully going to wait a couple years and then apply for it again. So unlike Roy, I'm going to have to do VGLI, at least for a little bit. And yeah, that does increase exponentially as the years go by. But yeah, if you haven't yet filed your claim and they being the insurance companies don't have access to it, I'd recommend doing it now for sure.
Yeah, no, great points, Brandon, right? Timing matters. Get it done while you're still on active duty, kind of look into that stuff now. So Lou, I saw your hand go up. What else you got?
No, I mean, with the same life insurance, I'll just tell you guys my personal experience. Like, I recently just did I did a term for myself. I didn't do the VGLI, like, I just did a term for myself, and they went through the VA pretty smooth. I mean, since it's term, it was super cheap, but, and I think, Brandon, it'll depend on who you go through. Like, I'll say for myself, I personally went through a company, Northwestern Mutual, and I did mine 3 months prior. And before you get your rating, if you go through them, or for whoever they'll look at you like you're not broke. So I did everything prior to me getting out, 2 to 3 months prior to me, and I set up everything very low pricing. And then obviously, if I did something now after my claim, after my rating, it's a little bit more difficult. So just depends on which company you go through. Will depend on what kind of premiums you'll have to pay, and obviously, I mean, what happens on the physical that they do for you. So.
Yeah. No,
you got to get that blood pressure down, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Zach, I saw your hand up.
Hey, just wanted to confirm, is that before you like submit a BDD, you should look into this, or like before you get a rating?
I would, I would say, really doesn't matter, for the simple fact that, like, when you submit your BDD, like, if they need a copy of your records, they're not going to go to the VA. They're still going to try to get your records through like medical, because the VA is just prepping everything, and they're not going to issue you a rating until potentially a month after you get out. So they'll just contact whatever medical office you go to on Pendleton, and that's where they're going to try to get your record. So as long as you're active duty, though, a lot of the companies look at it as like you're fully.
Good night, Brandon.
And they try not to, like, they consider you healthy is what I'm trying to say. Like, that's what that's how I was able to get my policies done before I got out, because they consider me like, oh, you're still active duty, so you must be healthy, or else you wouldn't be on active duty. So I would suggest doing everything prior to you getting out. And just the main thing is just not having it. Once you have that rating, And that's when they go, oh, you got 100% disabled. And that's where they're like, well, if you want X amount of coverage or life insurance, you're going to pay this premium. So that's
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, timing, the sooner the better in any case, Zach, right? And Kevin, the sooner the better. Start looking into it, start getting options, and, get it in before you get that rating, and making the decision on life insurance. So I want to break it down and say a couple of things, right? Like SBP or life insurance, it's not like exclusive. You can have SBP and life insurance, right? The choice is, do you want VGLI, Veterans Group Life Insurance, which is the follow-on to SGLI, or do you want private life insurance, or do you want life insurance at all? So first you got to decide, do I want to do SBP or not? So let's talk about that for a second, right? A lot of people that are very financially savvy will tell you like, oh, it doesn't make any sense. You could do so much more with that $250 a month. And, it's only 50% of your retirement in the long term. So why are you taking all that out? Like, you could put that in an IRA and it'll be worth more at the end of the day if you die anyways, right? So SBP itself, should I or should I not do SBP? To me, it's a completely personal decision. I'll share with you how I assessed it, right? Like, I'm like, if I die, right, and Gina's not getting anything for the rest of her life, like, that scares me, right? So I'm like, I'll pay the $250 knowing that when I die, Gina's going to at least get part of my retirement check for the rest of her life, right? She'll be okay with the kids and stuff. Now, that's not going to cover them. So I also did life insurance on top of SBP, right? Because I'm not an investor. I don't spend time, and like, I'm not going to be putting, a bunch of money, again, really financially savvy people will tell you SBP is not a prudent move to make. But for me, it was a logical and easy decision. It gave me a peace of mind, right? Then on top of that, I did life insurance. So I went through USAA. I don't know, Lou, if you said that's what you did, but $1 million policy for 20 years cost me $134 a month. I didn't have to do any medical exams or anything. I've been with USA for a long time. I was like, I need life insurance. I'm retiring. It was fucking easy and seamless. So for me, the decision was cool. If I die, Gina gets $1 million. She can take care of everything. And then she gets my retirement. Like, she basically is good. Right. So, morbid thoughts, whatever, but that was my thought process. Comparing VGLI, like the points that Roy brought up about VGLI, those are, in my opinion, pretty true, right? Like, you can probably do better looking around for other, but again, if you have health issues, VGLI is a good option no matter what, right? Because if you want to have some type of life insurance, so two separate decisions, right? Do I want SBP or not? Weigh the financial benefits of it and what you want to do with your money. And then, do I want insurance or not? And then if you do want insurance, then it's, do I want VGLI or do I want to go out on the market and find something? So hopefully, that was a helpful way to look at it, Kevin, and hopefully you got some of the questions answered. Did any of that spark any new questions, or you got other feedback, Kevin?
Yeah. So that answered, I guess 2 out of the 3 questions. The last one was when I was referring to insurance, I was referring to TRICARE, Prime, Select.
Yeah.
That type of deal. Yeah.
So I'll take the first stab at this. So you have multiple options as a retiree and as a disabled veteran, right? And you can do both, right? We talked about this before. You can use VA Health and you can use TRICARE. You have to go to the VA hospital. You have to get registered and you have to get in VA Health. And many of us have said, for some things, some individuals like to go to the VA hospital, and for some things, people go to their regular doctor and use TRICARE. So especially for your dependents, right? The VA Health, the VA hospital stuff, I think is just for us, right? But your dependents will be on TRICARE, Prime, or Select Remote, right? And the differences between Prime and Select are copays and referrals and shit like that. Anybody else want to take a stab or elaborate on that?
Yeah, Jim.
Right.
It's a or statement. I think it's called VA Champ. It's either VA Champ or TRICARE. So, one of the things you have to also look at too is depending upon where you're going to live at, what is the available facilities nearby. I'm a big proponent of Select because I like to have freedom of choice regardless of the copays. And I personally do not. I do not trust the military treatment facilities. I've had very, very bad experiences with them, life-threatening for both of my dependents, and I'll never trust another military treatment facility again. But that's, some others may have absolutely great MTF experience. I chose Select because I wanted to have freedom of choice. Now, using VA Healthcare or TRICARE Select, I like to have both. If I have long-term medications, long-term equipment, like for my my sleep apnea and CPAP machine, I go through the VA for. If I have issues, like if I need to go to podiatry, things like that, and it's not like immediate specialty care needs, I'll sometimes try to go through the VA. I have a very good, the VA app actually lets you talk back and forth with your primary care manager. And if you have a good primary care manager, they'll just put in referrals for you right on the top of it. And you can try to do the referral process and then also do requests for continuity care out in town or community care, excuse me, if the appointments for the VA are not within a timely manner. So it gives you flexibility. So at some points, I use my primary care for on the TRICARE side to take care of issues, or for some reason, you know, it's quicker for me. And if some reason, if I find an issue or an issue comes up that becomes like a long-term issue or a major issue, we're going to pivot back to the VA, you know, things like that. So I'll play devil's advocate on both sides, but yeah, I did select so my family can have freedom of choice, and the copays are not that bad. I think everyone in this group falls into the TRICARE Select Group A, which we have the lower payments. So it's like it's about $600 or so a year, and your family deductible. So when you first get out, guys, is going to be the most important thing. You're going to go to like medical care out in town, and you're going to get a bill for $100. You got to meet your minimum deductible first before the cost pay and co-shares come in. All right. So that's like $150 per individual. And I think it's like $300 or $400 for the family for the year. And then your co-pays kick in, like your $30 for a visit or whatever. Got that shocker and had to go back and forth with TRICARE and figure it out. It wasn't really given to me clearly in TRS, and that's what you have to do. So just be prepared for the first time when you're going to the year you come up that you're going to have to do co-pays. Now, for personnel that are in the retirement zone between now and 4 months from now, set up your primary care appointment out in town now, because that's almost how long those lead times are. Doesn't matter about your insurance, just set it up now so when you retire, you can go ahead and flip over your insurance to them, but set that appointment now. I learned the hard way when I retired in September. It was like November 24th was my first available appointment for primary care out in town. So keep that in mind. Set that mess up now. 90 days prior, you got your dental and your vision insurance. You can go through benfeds.gov and set up now. For your TRICARE, you have to wait until the day after your official retirement on your DD-214 to immediately call TRICARE to set that up. People say you have the 90-day grace period. Sure, but the day after you retire, you have no health coverage. So it might retroactively go back to 90 days, but every bit of that's going to come out of pocket. So make sure the day after you retire, you call TRICARE. Don't retire on a weekend like I did, and have to wait until Monday to call TRICARE. It sucks. But do that, make the choice, and be prepared to come out of pocket, I think, for the first quarter before it kicks into your retirement pay. And again, it's easier to have your dental, vision, and medical come out of your retirement pay, so it's out of sight, out of mind. That's my soapbox, Jim.
No, that's awesome, Roy. I mean, incredible amount of detail. Obviously, you've done your research and been through it. So, man, it's incredibly valuable.
I suffered to let others learn. That's usually how I like to learn. I suffer first, so no others have to.
And the suffering hasn't stopped. You're still suffering
still
benefit in IDP. So we all talk about you every day, Roy. And you're,
I'm glad I'm the amusement for you guys.
You're a true martyr, Roy.
They call me half-ass at the Navy now, because I get half the stuff right. I'm like not right, but not wrong. And yeah, that's the nickname half-ass there.
Done is better than perfect, right? All right, cool. No, Roy, incredible amount of information. Really appreciate it. Kevin, Zach, those of you that were asking questions, you guys, what else you got? And I will make a plug here real quick. We're real happy to have these discussions at any time, but next month in March, we're going to go even deeper, and we're going to, the majority of the conversation will focus on health benefits, health insurance. We're going to go over all this stuff again. So Kevin, between now and then, take away some of the information that you got tonight, do some more research, come back with some more questions, and be ready to share, because hopefully next month we'll have a couple new faces on, and we'll really go down the insurance road and talk more about that. I'm going to go back and watch the video a couple times and try to transcribe the encyclopedia that Roy just went through with us. And Roy, you're going to have to say all that again next month, right? Because the focus will be on health insurance. So
I can do the show and tell next month, so I can actually screen share and show them the massive greatness of choosing a healthcare plan for your dental and vision that just breaks the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Open mic. Any save rounds or alibis? Any questions anybody wants to get out while we've got the entire group on?
I had a quick one. All the links that were shared, like kind of in the chat, are those going to be available someplace to scoop up later and go through?
No.
Nope, this was it. If you didn't write down, you got that baby in your hands, you should have an ink stink in your hands. Yes, it'll all be available. Drew, do you want to comment on how the best way to access it or how we're going to get it out?
Let me figure it out, and we'll push it out in an email.
Yeah.
Thanks, Drew.
And Zach, we'll get you added to our permanent distribution list so that you get the information that we push out on a regular basis. Other new joins, Kevin, Jeff. I don't know. There's a name on here that I don't recognize, and I don't want to butcher the name. Pinkney. But
That's me. How y'all doing?
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, thank you for having me. Paul Landers invited me. We used to work up down here in DC together. He's a good guy. He's always talking about you and this group. So I wanted to definitely, attend this meeting today. And I will say it was some great information.
Good. No, I'm glad you benefited from it, and I appreciate you hopping on and joining. So we'll hope to hear you again next month, and we'll get you added to the permanent district if you want.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Grant, what's up?
I want to ask Drew a question, put him on the spot. Is it possible to create some sort of either Google chat, Slack channel, Discord thing, but like a running chat group that people could join where files and links and things could be? I know that's part of what the website's there for, but it's difficult to communicate via the website. Over.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's part of our long-term vision, getting that open forum where people can jump on like a Discord server and have all these rooms by topic, so you don't have to go paw through an hour and a half of YouTube.
I appreciate that. And it sounds like there's a lot of initiatives and a lot of changes and a lot of things that you and Abby want to introduce. Is there any bandwidth or any room for anyone on the line who has a particular skill set or an interest or whatever who wants to maybe assist with setting some of that stuff up? And maybe that would accelerate the timeline. Is that possible?
I just recently learned how to send a tweet. So if that's helpful, I'll help.
All right. So
Adam,
you're going to run it?
Yeah. You're going to run our Twitter page or our X page now, Adam? You volunteered?
Oh, is it X now? Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, you got me. But great point, Grant. We are continuing to work on maturing this and getting more communication platforms and making it, more accessible. One of the most exciting things is seeing new names and new faces on here every month. And so, yeah, we want to make it more supportive in between sessions. So that's a great suggestion, Grant, and great question. And we'll work on that. All right. What else? It's now 9:30. I appreciate everybody being on. As usual, probably a few of us are going to hang out, continue to enjoy the evening. But everybody's free. Any save rounds or alibis or any last questions related to the topic of the evening? Otherwise, it's returning to open discussion time, and we're going to talk about Doge and conspiracy theories and all kinds of crazy stuff. So be careful.
I had somebody hit me up this week and ask me which certification programs might be valuable in the civilian world, not necessarily just financial management or federal consulting, but obviously that applies to most of the audience. So I'm curious what your opinions were. My advice was PMP and CDFM in that order, but curious what everybody else thinks.
Well, I never let silence go for too long, so I'll talk again. Lou's laughing. So Grant, what I'll say to the group listening is, PMP and CDFM are important depending on what one. The other one I'll throw out is CPA. And it depends, especially now CPA with audit being such a big thing. Being a registered CPA and a defense financial manager carries a lot of weight, with companies, and the ability and the things you're allowed to do internal to the company, right? So for me, evaluating like roles and positions within IDP, certain things that to assign a position that somebody has to be a CPA. And then when you get to LCATs, the rates and salaries associated with that, you're spot on, and this from your experience. So I'm not surprised you said PMP and CDFM. But yeah, those two, CPA, I would say is also up there. And for those of you in the group that are kind of asking that question or wondering, right, like there are certain things when we get LCATs. So I'm going to share this from like a business perspective, right? For us, when we get LCATs proposed to us from a prime or in a contract, the client has the ability to put in designators. They're like, this bill it requires. So you're like, hey, you know what? I've got 20 years experience. I want this much salary, right? But I didn't get a bachelor's degree while I was in, and I didn't get a PMP while I was in. And it's like, hey man, like I know how talented you are. I worked with you for 20 years. I know you're awesome, but I can't put you in that LCAT because that LCAT requires X, Y, these 3-letter designators, right? So, from an employer's perspective, it's great to see people with those, all those letters after their signature block and stuff like that. And so Grant, great topic of discussion and great question. So in addition to what you said with PMP, CDFM, CPA, Lou, I know you had maybe some stuff to talk about or add.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think me and Roy have talked about something as well, which is another one is a CMA. A CMA is like the certified, it's a certified management accountant, which they're more recognized. I think CPA is more like here, like US type deal, where a CMA is more of a international, like global, globally more recognized. So they kind of go hand in hand, but CMA is also another option where you can, another certification you could obtain, and it's a lot less stringent on it. You don't have to.
It's a lot less tests, Lewis. Let's get that right.
It is, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's less testing for that. Well, let's think. I mean, if we dive into that, right? Like with a CMA, like you can have a degree in finance, not necessarily accounting, right? So it's like as long as you have a finance background with some accounting or business management, you can become a CMA. Where with the CPA, a lot of it does have to go into like you have to have a certain amount of hours in accounting. So talking to Roy, I've also been like, maybe I do go, on that side a little bit. So
regardless of the certification you get, it's a very expensive road.
100%.
CGFM, CGFM, CPA, CMA, it's a $300 annual membership. Then it's $300 to apply for the test. Then it's $500 per test. It's $2,000 out of pocket. CPA, I think, is 3 tests. You have to go through their organization. CGFM is the AGA, and then it's a very expensive enterprise for these organizations.
Go ahead, Zach.
I want to throw out there too, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think CPA matters by state too. Like there's certain states where you can have a CPA and you can practice in that state, but if you go to another state or you're trying to do business outside of that, then necessarily like you might not have that the ability to use those credentials. At least like I've encountered 100%. That a couple of times. Like I've applied for a couple like CFO positions and stuff too, and I've had the conversations about it, and like it really matters based off of state. Because if I went and became a CPA in Arizona, I couldn't just go to Illinois and like pick up a job that requires a CPA. So like that's something to consider too with like what's going to travel with you.
Yeah, that's a great point, Zach. Right, you got to look at like how universally accepted things are. Right now, that's good. Grant, sir, it's open discussion. No more hands. Just talk. I don't want to call him.
Grant likes to raise his hand.
He always raises his fucking hand when someone else is talking.
Grant dropped his voice. Let's hear that big booming voice.
I only raise my hand when you're talking, Jim.
Thanks. Because he knows I'll see it and I get distracted. Like I'm like, what?
We need to
What?
stop. My bad.
I
No,
can't
I don't
keep
have
going.
any.
Go ahead. So what is it, Grant?
Oh, I don't have anything. I was trying to come off of mute and I raised my hand. Just interrupted you. Well, I'll throw out one more. CISA, Certified Information Systems Auditor, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Lou said, with audit being a big thing, systems and internal controls are the foundation before substantive testing.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. And that made me think of something. All right, Abby, thanks for your help. Have a good night. That made me think of something too, right? In addition to those big things that you can get that'll qualify you for LCATs and give you, big time, like, okay, I'm PMP. There's a ton as an employer, right? I'll say this, there's a ton of micro learning certificates, right? That you can do that will make you extremely valuable internally to the team, right? Like we're always talking about, Drew, what are Power BI, Click, like, Databricks, I don't know. But in addition to like those big things you got to pay for and go get, LinkedIn Learning, there's a ton of resources.
Google, Microsoft.
Yeah. So for those of you that are looking for quick hits, like those are things you can do too. What's that, Jerry?
In the world of government, if you're an Excel data master certification, you probably make about $3 million a year, it seems. That's what it feels like. Everyone loves Excel, and I despise it with a heartbeat.
That's only if you're
I hate
SRE, Roy. That's only
I
if
hate
you're
Excel.
SRE.
Never worked in it so much in my life in the past 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Hey, just remember that every new fancy database is based on Excel. And it always makes its way back to Excel.
Yeah, that's a good point, Roy. Microsoft Office is ubiquitous with the government. So if you do have opportunities to do the Excel boot camps and the advanced Excel or introduction to Access, those skills are used every day. The government doesn't want to wait for a fancy database. They just want Excel pivot tables, pivot charts.
Has anybody here ever actually used their GI Bill for any of those, or gone through the education center while on active duty to go for one of those courses or anything like that?
I used it for my MBA. For the PMP, there's a program where you don't have to use anything. The Hiring Our Heroes will pay for it. So the only thing that it won't pay for is the test at the end, but it'll pay for all the coursework and it'll pay for the 36 hours like that you need in order to like take the test. But you still have to shell out the $600 for the test. But
so I was gonna say, on top of Hiring Our
From
Heroes,
Agile.
Adam,
Kanban.
I was gonna say, Adam, if you want to go through, it's called Onward to Opportunity through Syracuse University. They have a program, and so typically you can use it, and they'll pay for your exam, but they'll pay only for one exam out of all the certifications that they offer. So if you want to do PMP, you can do that. While on active duty, you have to have at least 6 months left, and then once you retire, then you have to at least be out for 6 months. But then you can pick whichever certification you want, and they'll pay for your exam. And they'll do one certification for free. There's an Onward to Opportunity through Syracuse University. So.
Got it. No, that's helpful, man. Thank you.
Yep.
I used Udemy when I was like a captain. Udemy, UDEMY. They have some free. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. What's that?
I believe Catherine Parnelli, who's a retired dispersing chief warrant officer, is the program director for the Syracuse program at Pendleton. Sure, she could assist anybody anywhere with getting in wherever their local chapter is, but we do have somebody on the inside that we could ask information for.
All right. Good information, Grant.
Hey, one last thing, one last pitch on the Syracuse one. It's open to veterans and their family members. So your spouse can also do one of those certifications, including the PMP. Or you can do it together. Make it a family thing.
Yeah, that's about to happen with me and my wife. She's doing the PMP right now, and I'm about to hop into it right after her. So I'm about to take notes from her.
Very cool.
All right, this was an awesome session. I appreciate everybody hopping on. Kevin, we'll be in touch. I know I owe you some documents and stuff. related to SkillBridge. We'll definitely be communicating more. And Micah, thanks again for hopping on. Thanks for helping us get into the Pentagon last week when we were out there. Micah, I'll be there next week for the PNR Awards dinner, so I'll see you there if I don't see you before. Let's hang out. We'll catch up. I'll send you a text. Anybody else?
Definitely. I'll be there.
All right, cool. If anybody else has anything, y'all are free to stay on, but I got to go pick up Anderson, so I am out of here. Everybody have a great night.